Hello and welcome to our very first Boiler Room podcast. Hopefully,
Woohoo!
the first of many. But today, we're going to talk about the 2018 game, which was released in September that year, I believe, from Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Spider-Man on the PS4. I was lucky enough to play this game back when it came out. Chunt and Jamie have finally joined the cause
In 2020.
and have decided to bask themselves in the majesty that is Spider-Man. Good evening and good morning, fellas.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Oh,
Just to throw you
Well-
a curveball.
Well, that's why I said evening. I went, oh, wait.
close enough.
Fine. All right. So the way the way I'm going to orchestrate this one is I'm just going to ask you boys some questions about the game, and we'll cover most stuff. But also, towards the end, the last part will be in terms of pretty much knowing that a Spider-Man 2 is on the horizon. That's not meant to be another plug of another game. We'll just talk about what we want in that game and where we think the game can grow. So the first thing I want to talk about the game is, what was your favorite aspect about the game? I feel like we're all going to have similar answers on this one. So Chunt, do you want to lead up this one off?
My number one favorite of the game?
Yeah, the favorite aspect of the game.
Aspect. All right. So outside of everything that this game has to offer, it has to be the Scarlet Spider suit. That was a no-brainer. It's half the reason I bought the fucking thing, because I love Scarlet Spider. That costume is just dope as hell. I love it. It's so 90s. I even liked it back then. That's been my Spider-Man. And I followed like the Ben Reilly character that costume is from, like during the Clone Saga and stuff. A whole other story, tangent, but yeah, I played as that in the whole game. I didn't change my suit when I didn't have to, and that was it. So I got real surprised and a bit like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, and there's some scenes in the game that are like pre-rendered, and it's in the PS4 suit. I was like, oh, that's right. I haven't seen that since I started the game. But yeah, that's my favorite. I love playing the game through that. It's so good.
Well, I think they do a good job of it in that.
They modernize
They
it
let
so
you
well.
stay in the suit for as long as possible. There's not
Oh, is
often
that?
that you
Yeah.
have to wear something different. Like
Yeah.
at the end, you have to switch to the
Yes.
Octavia suit, but
They could have really cheapened down on it, because there's another that Far From Home suit where
Yeah.
it's like a inverted Scarlet Spider type thing, and it looks real janky and stuff. Like, they could have made it the cloth looking and stuff, but they did it so good. It's like modern and awesome textures, and I love it. There's a hot toy of that you can get, and I'm so tempted to get it. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
can talk
annoying in
about
games
that
when
thing
you
for
walk
ages.
into a scene with your favorite gun and then the cut scene starts playing and you just have a handgun or something in your hand and you're like, so
Yeah.
it just kind of breaks. Yeah, so I like the suits is a big factor of the game. Jamie, what about you? What suit did you use during the magnitude of that game?
I can't remember which one it's called. The black and green kind of. You look like a neon spider. Like, it's this black
yeah.
and
Big
bright
time.
green. I used that for a while until I got the Iron Spider suit, and then I was just flying around in the Iron Spider suit. And since, like, the DLC's got some really cool suits in it as well, but I won't spoil them for Chunks. I don't think he's got that far yet.
Really?
Yeah, there's new suits in every
Ah.
episode of the DLC that are quite brilliant. The end suit I
Cool.
didn't keep on for long at all, other than that final mission. I get the point of it. Actually spent some time with the stock suit. Do you know what I mean? The one that's from the game. I think it's
Yeah.
quite neat.
I was mostly classic, or I'd veer off and maybe go Homecoming, or I think I did the Infinity War one for a little while, but I was mainly classic.
The
most of that
upgraded
time.
suit is the one from Far From Home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, the Far From
Like
Home is the
red and black.
red with the black.
The red and black one, yeah. Yeah, I used that for a good while as well. But that's not my favourite aspect. The suits are cool, but it's definitely not my favourite aspect. My favourite part of it is just flying around the city.
Yeah.
Just swinging through that city. It's so satisfying. And Dan, you pointed me to to Danny O'Dwyer's video, the review that he put out when Spider-Man first came out, and the comparisons he makes to Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
100%. I totally agree. Like the feeling is exactly the same. You know, you're just going through getting these collectibles and just flying. It's because it's so satisfying to pull off. And that's why Chunt, as we were saying, you know, is it the best superhero game ever? Like, the Arkham games are brilliant. I know we've all got an affinity towards the Arkham games, but it doesn't hit that mobility the way that Spider-Man does. Like, flying around the Manhattan is just like, you know, it's wicked. The whole of New York City is utterly phenomenal, and you can tell by the fast travel thing, as we've alluded to a few times, I think, in the last few weekly podcasts, that you don't want to fast travel in that game. I don't want to fast travel. Like, sometimes I actually think it's quicker not to, because you can move so rapidly towards the end of the game. But yeah, just web swinging through the city. I'm still doing it. I've finished everything, but you know, I'm still going back trying to chase that platinum. I've got an itch to play it, even though I've finished it, which is something that not very many video games can attest to.
See, I did that with Spider-Man 2, the movie game, back on Xbox. Man, even when I finished that game, I always had that in the console, just swing around, because it was that good.
So many balloons.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. And and this game is very similar. Like, I need to make room on my PS4 already, and I finished this, and I can't bring myself to just get rid of it yet. To start another game, like, I find myself just wanting to leave it on there, I think, and just get rid of other things in the meantime. It's very good.
Yeah, and I think it's not even like the swinging, obviously, but the way that they've designed it to let you zip towards the corners of buildings and shoot straight off. Like, it is literally a game where you could just never touch the ground unless you had to go beat up some guys. Even then, you could stay off the ground for a fair amount of time on those in those fights, which the game kind of encourages you to do. So my favorite aspect is the swinging around as well. Like, that sensation is crazy. But if I had to pick something else, just, you know, so we can talk about the game a little bit more, I think the story that they came up with, and the new story, is something. Being a big Spider-Man fan, to see something new was just really, really cool. And I like what they did with a few of the characters, which we'll talk about later.
It wasn't just an origin. Like, he was well formed in his career, you know? It wasn't just a retreading of, oh, here we go. We got to learn how to do this, learn how to do that. It was like, you know, he's well into his adulthood, and that was good.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like the story was pretty well paced. I don't think there was a lot of filler in it. Like, there wasn't a lot that was taking you off to the side just to do something random to keep the game going a little bit longer. Like, it all felt necessary, which was nice.
Debatable.
Okay, well, we can get into that. So one question I did want to ask you guys: did we appreciate the tech savvy Spider-Man? Because that was something that's a bit different, where Spider-Man does tend to, like, create his own web shooters, but knowing Insomniac and games they've made previously, like Resistance and Ratchet and Clank, where specifically because I played Ratchet and Clank so recently, and they have, you know, 16 different weapons, and you just go in between each different thing. Them bringing that into Spider-Man and giving him the web bombs and the little spider drones and all that stuff. Did we appreciate having tech-savvy Spider-Man?
Jamie, you go first. I have thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think it was overly tech-savvy Spider-Man. Like you said, like he's known to be quite the science nerd, and you know he's always depicted in that way. The Peter Parker character, anyway. I think it was pulls a little bit from the Iron Man mantra. You know, he's a bit of a boy genius, and I think there was a lot of that, but I enjoyed it. It was cool. Some of the kind of sciencey missions, you know, repairing the the elements of Doc Ock's suit and getting the chemical compounds right. I thought they were actually quite fun little breakups in terms of mini games. I didn't have any issues with that. I think it all kind of played into that part of the game, and it was good fun.
Yeah. So this was just textbook Peter Parker. Like, public perception is Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield to a lesser extent, and Tom Holland, who's just picking up Tony Stark tech. So Tobey Maguire did bugger all or nothing, right? So public perception of Spider-Man in that regard for people that know Spider-Man for the movies is like, well, all the tech stuff is new, but this is just textbook comic book Spider-Man. He's always had those gadgets. Like, there's a couple they didn't have on there. Like, he has like a spider signal that comes out from his belt and stuff, like the bat signal. They don't do that too much these days, but all the like the web bombs and the
of course
like different
because he's basically poor man's Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, so it was all like
Literally
all the
poor.
gadgets were there. Yeah, like broke and homeless. And so I enjoyed that. I was like, yeah, they leaned right into it. Like in the comics of Marvel these days, in particular, they just went through a storyline where Peter Parker essentially became a Tony Stark-esque character, where he had a big tower and a mogul and a big tech company and stuff. I think it was Parker Tech or something, original like that. And he became a bit egotistical. He left Mary Jane and got like a supermodel and this kind of stuff. So they did all that. So he's always been tech savvy and like genius level scientist. And I liked how they went into that, and he looked up to his protege in the science room. So they twisted the story a bit, but I enjoyed it anyway. I thought it was natural for this story that they told, some elements that they did in this. But yeah, the tech savvy Spider-Man, it's just legit. Like, they lean right into it. It's great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they put a different spin on it in terms of because I know I haven't read it, but I know the comic story that you're talking about in the comics where he kind of turns into Tony Stark Jr.
Yeah.
But this one kind of differentiates that, where you can see in the cutscenes when he's working with Otto, you can see that he's just trying to help people. And like, if he wanted, he could go and work for Oscorp and earn money and build up something himself. But
yeah,
that's not what his goal is. He wants to use his mind along with Otto, because he thinks Otto is working towards the same goal as he is. So I think they do a lot to differentiate something that you normally see with the Tony Stark character or something like that. Well, let's move on to our villains. We'll start with the villains. At what stage did we always think Doc Ock was going to be the main villain, or was this sport? Because you guys have played it a long time after the games came out. Did you know about Doc Ock in the game, or was it spoiled for you? And did you, if you hadn't, did you expect him to turn?
I actually knew
I saw
nothing.
the trailer when they. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, you carry on, mate. I was saying I knew nothing going in.
Oh, good. Well, I remember when they showed the trailer, the reveal trailer. It was the initial reveal of the Sinister Six, and there was the one character in the trailer they left out, and the Sinister Six is like all his big rogues gallery members, like the ones that were in the game. So I kind of just assumed and anticipated as much. That is, Otto Octavius is in the game. He's one of the most iconic Spider-Man villains in it. I don't think they would save that for a sequel build-up, because video games, there's no guarantee of a sequel, like ever, really. So I don't think that would hold that back. But I think it was logical for the story, and if he's working with Otto Octavius in the science labs, it's just telegraphed as like good guy turns bad and fight. Saw it coming. But yeah, I think in the mix with Mr. Negative, well, that was interesting. I didn't know about that character, so that was new for me. And I was like, hang on, how long is this guy going to last? And when are we going to get Dr. Octopus, that kind of stuff. And I liked how they intertwined it all. That was really good, but I guess we'll get into that into a moment. But man, Dr. Octopus, really good. Really enjoyed that as a villain. I'm just going to throw it out there now. I thought it was excellent, very tragic. You could tell he didn't want to be that way, but um, we're not going to talk about that kind of stuff yet, so I don't want to get right into it. But yeah, I could go on about this game, and I need to stop. Just next question, Dan. I really
Jamie,
enjoyed this
you give
game.
your 2 cents about Doc Ock.
But the villains in general, I thought they were all relatively well done. The Mr. Negative stuff didn't land with me. I think it's probably the weakest part of the villain cycle. I could have done with a bit less of him and a bit more exploration of some of the other villains that are in the game. I know because of how the premise of the city's set up and kind of what he's doing for the city, kind of it needed fleshing a little bit, but I think it was fleshed. Well, it's the whole first act, isn't it? And half of the second. So he takes up quite a lot of time. Didn't particularly feel too invested in that character, but yeah, I kind of started to. I think that there's a scene. I think it's maybe the second or third time you go back to the lab, and he's figured out the neural network and he's kind of trialing it, and you can see then the shades of like, right, this is coming, and it's like, yeah, he's going to be the big bad, and then beat for beat it plays out. There's nothing surprising about the story. And there's nothing surprising about the villains. They are just Spider-Man villains, and they nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Doc Ock's one of the strongest characters in the whole game, especially in terms of the villains. He is the strongest character because he has the most development. So, yeah, they nailed him.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult in Spider-Man games because there's been so many movies and so many comics over the years. People know a lot about the characters and they can kind of expect to see where they're going to go. But I thought even with Doc Ock, having him being able, like his body physically failing him, and you can like his like ferocity to try and get these arms to work so he can
He's desperate.
do the work that he wants to do. I thought that was a really good way of giving him like a reason why he's working on this stuff.
Yeah, that was new, I think, too. I don't remember that being part of the actual character. So that was good. That was a new spin on it I didn't expect. But yeah, you're right. It was good to give him a motive and a urgency to his cause or desperation out of being like Hawking's been a genius stuck in a flesh bag.
And even then they play with the idea that they expect most people have seen like the movie, and you're thinking, it's the arms that are making him go a bit crazy. But there's lines that he says towards the end, like literally when he's lying on his back helpless, where you're like, I don't think it was the arms doing this at all. Like he had this plan, and he's manipulating Peter because spoilers, I guess, if you're watching at this point, but like he knew the entire time, and
that's right.
Even in doing that, he was willing to sacrifice and hurt Peter to get what he wanted. I thought that was a really
true.
Like it's like nothing is like it's. If you were reading out the plot details, this probably goes back to when we were talking about Last of Us Part 2 and about the leaks, right? You could say what this plot is to someone and they'll go, oh yeah, but I feel like the way it was delivered was really clever, and it was just really well written, and you were there for those moments, and you weren't just like, on to the next bit.
I was pretty empathetic towards Octavius for most of the game until he had that inhibitor thing on, and Peter warned him about the imbalance, and while you're trying to fix it, even Peter's like, I don't know if I can fix this. And then when you try to fix it, you're like, it's not done, but he goes and does it anyway. So you're right. I think he just he knew, obviously he didn't really care. He just wanted it. And from that point on, I still think it was a bit tragic. I can't see him being that at the start of the game. Like when you're getting to know Octavius and the relationship between he and Peter, it seems legit. And like, I don't think there's much of the villain aspect there. But I think it's when Osborn entered the room and took everything from him, and he's like, all right, I'm going to make something else and take him down. I think that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty tragic. I liked it.
And I agree with you, Jamie, a little bit about Mr. Negative. Like visually, he's interesting to play against because of like literally the negative balance, but and having the dark side of himself, and then the light side being owning
Feast.
the feast. Um, I like the idea, but you're right. They didn't pull it off as well as I'd hoped. But
You didn't have time, really. You didn't really have time to grow like empathy again with this guy. Like you meet him and you're like, all right, he's some rich dude running this place out of some want or ego or something to do something good, whatever. That's the impression I got. But then he starts mentioning things about this means something to me. It's like, well, what does that mean? And you see some photos in his office about his parents or whatever. You're like, all right, is this a guilt thing that he does? Is like some rich people do. They do this as a guilt because they're so rich. They should do something to make them feel better. That's kind of how I got it. But obviously, you find out that his parents died and all that kind of shit. But I don't see how his parents dying in that accident, where he essentially blasted them to nothing, equates to I'm going to build a homeless shelter. Like I don't see the connection to that. Like that didn't make too much sense. But you don't get enough time to like him before he's already like, I've got something I need to do, and he disappears. And then I'm going to go do villain stuff, and I'm going to turn up again. So yeah, he might. I think I might agree. Probably the weaker point.
So the other villains in it, and we'll just touch on it quickly, which is the Sinister Six. So we've got Rhino, Scorpion, sorry, and what is it, Electro, Vulture. The main ones you fight, and obviously we don't know much about them as characters, but I like the idea that these are all guys that Spider-Man has put away in the past, like on his own. So rather than have you fight them one-on-one, we'll throw two of them at you at a time, and you have to figure out how to beat them both at the same time. And I thought that was cool on a gameplay level, that you're, especially with like Electro and Vulture being these flying enemies, and you got to stay up in the air and figure out a way to beat them. I thought that was creative, and the fact that it just totally, like, the city just goes to crap. Like everything's on fire. There's people like out for you at the same time, and to up as a gameplay mechanic to put that city in just total disarray for a little segment of the game, I thought was really impressive.
You felt it. Laser sights at your head as you're swinging by. Fucking like rockets getting thrown at you all the time. Like, oh shit. That's really good.
You messaged me, Jamie, about that when you're like, I think you messaged it and you're like, yep, the city's gone to crap.
Yep.
Which is your favorite between the two? So you've got Electro and Vulture, and then you've got Rhino and Scorpion.
Which fight was better?
Between the fights?
Electro and Scorpion, I think.
Yeah.
Rhino just... Again, Rhino was a big part of a Miles mission, and it was just frustrating the hell out of me. I was sick of his face by the time I'd finished it. I found to be fair, I think Rhino was very underdeveloped as well. It's just like, oh, he's there. Do you know what I mean? The only mission that you get to explore the rest of them really is walking around Doc Ock's secret lab. Yeah. And, if you play the tapes, it kind of gives you the motive, but
you don't really learn much about him. It's more like just to throw some stuff at you.
Yeah, it's just preamble, isn't it, to make sure there's a reason for you to be fighting with them. But yeah, the Electro and who do you fight with Electro? Vulture. Yeah. That fight was quite cool. Having to telegraph the movement and stay in the air. I think that was largely more impressive. You could kind of defeat Rhino and Scorpion just with, web them. They're both ground based. I think it'd have been quite ingenious if they maybe swapped it up so that the two fights had one airborne villain and one grounded one. and figured out something to do there, that'd have been quite neat. I mean, I get why they did solely grounded fight, solely airborne fight, because the characters then are in the same play space, but it'd have been interesting to see it the other way around. But yeah, definitely the airborne fight was more fun.
Well, so talking about some gameplay aspects that we didn't like, because we've talked a lot of positive stuff. Do you want to kick off your main gripe with this game, Jamie?
Stealth missions. No need
Stealth
for it.
missions.
I get the need for slight stealth as Spider-Man. You know, if you creep in through kind of vents and stuff and eavesdropping on conversations. MJ and Miles are both good additions to the story and good additions narratively. I don't need to play as them. I don't need to play as either of them doing sneaky, stealthy shit. Like, Chunt, I think you said, since when is MJ Lois Lane, you know, a field reporter? I felt a bit of that. She started to grind on me towards the end of the game as well. Not even just because of the stealth missions. Her character started to grind on me quite a little bit. And the Miles stuff, I get it. It's neat of them to introduce Miles, you know, as he goes on to become a version of Spider-Man. In this universe, he's going to be the next Spider-Man, which I'm sure is something we'll come on to a little bit later because, no, thank you. And yeah, there's just no need for the stealth stuff. Like, those missions don't need to be in the game. It breaks the flow, it breaks the immersion, and to the point where after sort of 3 or 4 of them, I was like, I'm over this now. It still throws more at you. It throws more and more at you. I think there's 2 each every act. So by the time you've done sort of 8 of these stealthy missions and had the gameplay broken up for you that many times, the last one, I think you said to me, oh, you passed them now, and then one more came, and I was like, fuck this. Like, I was so agitated. And the last one's actually not that bad. It's a few minutes. It's really quite simple, the last one, but still, like, I was just, I'm done with this. I don't need it breaking up the gameplay. It really, really does not, in my opinion, it does not need it. The game suffers for having it.
See,
Ran over.
I don't disagree with you totally. I actually, I didn't mind it. I think it was a way to give you something different in the game as you were playing. But even today, I was just watching on YouTube, like, through cutscenes, so I could try and remember certain stuff that happened in the game. And you know, I think you need like a tutorial one, like she does in the museum. I think the Miles one, after the explosion happens at the ceremony, and her finding out all the stuff in Osborn's apartment towards the end, those are the ones that are kind of needed. The one, you know, Miles running away from Rhino, her infiltrating the camp, her infiltrating Tombstone in his biker garage, like, they're all not necessary. They're a sentence of her saying, I got these from Tombstone's layer or whatever, and then as Spider-Man you eventually go fight him anyway. So I do appreciate them having there, but yeah, there are too many of them. And I guess my actual favorite one was when you were Mary Jane in the train station and you're actually instructing Spider-Man on which people to take out, because I was like, oh, cool, we're actually seeing Spider-Man from a person's perspective and seeing him zip around and do the stuff that you've been doing throughout the game. So I was like, at least that's a different perspective of what's going on. It's not just you sneaking. But yeah, I agree with you, Chunt. You're more on Jamie's side on this one, aren't you?
Very. I hated it. Like, I smashed through them. Like, it doesn't take much time out of my, you know, valuable time I'll never get back. But I just felt it was one of those points where, like, all right, it's time for me to have a break now, you know. Whereas if it didn't come up, I would have been still playing the game. But at the time where I'm like, oh, stealth mission, I guess I go to bed. Or, oh, stealth mission, yeah, I guess I'll watch something on YouTube now. You know, I'll come back to it. I don't want to do it. You know, and just like, I don't need to spend 20 minutes walking around Norman Osborn's apartment where one room in that place is bigger than my whole entire apartment. You know, it's just padding for the sake of it. I didn't think, like, MJ traditionally has been the go get 'em tiger, supermodel, like unachievable. But like that was the whole purpose. Like Peter Parker was us, the nerds that read comic books. Stan Lee didn't want to make him like a Clark Kent, like Superman type figure. So he was, not diminutive, but he was a smaller guy. Ended up with a supermodel. That whole kind of dream thing. Nerd finds attractive woman, and I don't see why there's anything wrong with that. But now they've turned her into a Lois Lane. Cool, I guess. Like it's a new take, I guess, modern era or whatever. Strong, independent female and stuff. But it is what it is. I could have done without it. Miles, yeah, he's the new generation Spider-Man. I guess there was a mandate maybe from Sony to put him in from all the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. I could see that happening. But he has a massive fan base, and he is part of the main comic book universe now. He used to be from like an ultimate comic book, like a totally different universe, but then they merged, all that kind of comic book.
You've just muted yourself, Chunt.
Hello?
There you go.
Oh, I literally didn't touch anything. Cool.
Dan's muted himself.
Yeah, anyway. Oh.
What's going on?
It's the powers that be. It's Disney. We're talking smack about one of their
properties. I just wanted to shut you all up.
It just crapped out on us.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Look. I'm with Jamie. The next game can do with very little external character stealth missions. If I have to do stealth missions, let me be Spider-Man.
So, the other thing I want to talk about is the side missions in the game, and it's good that you brought up the Daniel Dwyer review, because he mentions it in terms of they're really quick side missions. You don't have to do them for long, and then you can get back to doing whatever you're doing.
I didn't even do them.
I feel like a lot of the side missions I didn't like were ones that I felt could be in any particular game and didn't relate to Spider-Man. So, like going to the towers, for instance, didn't feel very Spider-Man. But even collecting the backpacks, even though it's a simple, like you're just going and collecting something, because when you collect it, it has this like stuff from his past, or like little nods to the Spider-Man lore and stuff like that. Like suddenly it became a Spider-Man thing. But because the backpacks are the first thing I did, because I love just looking into them and everything like that. So anything that kind of related back to Spider-Man, I was happy to do. But because the side missions are very repetitive, any that weren't Spider-Man related and I felt like could be in any other game, I kind of just tended to do them last. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Yeah, like that was the first thing I did. I got all the bags and all the towers, so you can unlock the whole map and get all the bags. And then I was like, all right, I'll start the game now, because I got the one suit I wanted. And but otherwise, I didn't dabble too much, in all the other external stuff. I did them if I wanted to unlock a particular thing, and all the landmarks and stuff. I did all that as well. But yeah, like the Taskmaster stuff, I'm like, nah. The lab stuff, didn't bother with it too much. And some of the raid, like you got to go to those little raid places where you got to take everybody out in this little building. I did a couple of those; they were fun. But I really just wanted to just swing around and do random events. As I'm swinging around, you'll get the radio on, and oh look, something's going down, and you can go sort it out and then progress the story. That's just how I wanted to play it. But I felt no need to go do them because I had everything I needed. I think I unlocked maybe 2 or 3 different upgrade type like weapons or suit powers or whatever. Because you got your suit power, then 3 slots. And I think I had the same 3 slots in suit and the suit power the whole time. So I felt no need to go do all the extra shit because I had everything I needed.
Yeah, my experience was it was quite similar. I did all the backpacks to start with. I started unlocking suits, got a few powers that I wanted. I think I said to you guys the other day, I'm pretty sure I played like 80% of the whole game with literally just like web bomb and the electric web. Like they were the only two things that I needed to play the whole game. I was into the second episode of the DLC before I was like, maybe I should unlock all these gadgets now. And I unlocked everything, and now I've got the full wheel to play with. It does make you feel stronger with all of the gadgets unlocked. You know, you can combo some of them quite effectively. I love the trip mine. I think that's hilarious. You fire a trip mine at like 3 people and they all just collapse on their asses. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the going around the city, that's the thing that I'm a bit hooked on now, to be honest. Like going and clearing out different areas of New York. I think I've got 3 districts cleared, and I'm going to get the rest of them. I want the platinum, which needs to be done to do it. Although speaking of clearing out missions, the Taskmaster ones are getting on my nerves a little bit. They are they're very repetitive. Like at least there's some nuance difference between a few of the other ones, but these are literally like fly to this area, fly through those drones, take out this bomb, now go take out that bomb. The combat challenge to get the 3 full star things as well is so bait, it's ridiculous. Like, you know, I think I've tried to do is it 65,000 score you need to get the golden one, which you need for the achievement or the trophy, and it's like I think I've got 63,000 twice. It's like, what the hell gives me that extra 2? I didn't get hit. I comboed the entire fight. I used gadgets. I used finishers. Like, how on earth else do you get it? I think it comes down to the time bonus. So little things like that are really annoying with the side stuff. But the actual like story side missions, you know, the ones that come up as like actual blue side quests, I thought they were quite interesting. A few of them were. The Tombstone one is the only one that's kind of an arc. It's 3-part. Like you do 3 separate like mini missions, and you get kind of tombstones that like I'd have liked to have seen more of that. You know, give us a random villain that's not, you know, super villain, but someone that Spider-Man's constantly being harassed by, or, you know, having to clean up for, and give us 3 or 4 of those. That'd have been quite nice.
Like small little arcs just happening.
Yeah. Take away some of the repetitive collectathon stuff, and invest a bit more time in that. That'd have been pretty cool to see. And that continues long into the DLC as well. Again, it's a lack of, say, side missions and more collectathons, which are based on the original game. That was a bit frustrating. You know, getting to the end of the stories in the DLCs, and it's like, oh, the city's changed in certain ways. There's new factions around, but it's just clear out the base, do the screwball challenges, which are a take on Taskmaster. Don't really evolve very much. Like, and you've got 3 episodes of that. So I think there could have been a bit more room for variety in the side stuff. But I'm still playing it, and I'm still going back to it. I'm still doing the side stuff. So I can't sit here and say it's annoying me, because I'm willingly going back to try and platinum it. So there could have been more variety, but yeah, overall, I don't have an issue with it. I think the side stuff's been quite fun.
All right. Well, any last words in terms of this game, and before we move on to what we want in the sequel?
Yeah, I want a Superman game, just like this. This game, I said it to you guys the other night, and I even thought of it even more after I finished it. I'm like, God damn, like I just need a Superman game like this in my life. It's excellent. Like after the credits, I was like, oh man, you know, imagine being a Spider-Man fan and having this in your life, you know, just waltz in out of nowhere, you know, exclusive to a console that I never bothered with for the last 5 years, you know. And then here I am buying a console that I never thought I would, just essentially for this game, you know, for the most part, because I've always wanted to play it. And now I just want a Superman game just like it, like the same caliber, the same love, the same care, like everything, just like that. Like get Insomniac to do a Superman game, but that'll never happen now because they're Sony, and they'll be just pumping out Spider-Man games and making hand over fist. But you know, first world problem, I got to experience this game.
So what do we decide, boys? Do we rate games here, or do we just say we like them and move on?
I think we should take a leaf out of Jim Sterling's book and say, is it great or perfect? Because games are only allowed to be great or perfect these days. You can't say anything other than that. No, I'm not interested in a rating scale. I think if we were saying that, it's great. It's not perfect. It has got its flaws, but it is one of the best games I've played for a very long time.
Yeah,
Same.
I think we can just say it was worth playing. That's good enough for me. So, basing off the astounding flaw that we have to work with to build up from here with the first Spider-Man game, we're gonna say what we do want and some things that we don't want in the sequel, which we know is coming. So I think the way we do this is I'll start and then we'll just work our way down and then work our way back and go one at a time.
Like Pong.
So my first one, and the reason why I wanted to go first because I didn't want any of you to steal this.
Oh,
I want in the next Spider-Man game the ability to design your own suit.
interesting.
I reckon, like, I think it's mainly like a cosmetic thing. I don't think you come up with the gadget to go with it, but I reckon the ability to design your own suit in the game would be awesome. Like another as a customizable option. Especially the fact that this game is kind of built up that like Peter's making all the suits himself and designing them. Like I think that would be extremely cool if they could add that into the game.
Yeah, how would you go about that? Like, would it just be a base suit that would layer a skin on?
Well, no, you'd like choose the different the different spider designs. You could choose.
Oh, like unlockable cosmetics and shit.
Yeah, well, even if there's a story mission at start where you start with the spider suit from the first game, and it gets ripped or whatever, and it's like, all right, now I gotta build a new suit, and there's just at the start, it's just a little thing of you putting together your suit. You're choosing the color scheme, you're choosing the design layout, the spider, the eyes, every like a belt, no belt, whatever it is. Because of all the suits that are already in there, it'd be so cool if you could design your own.
Oh hell yeah, your own Spidey
Yeah,
suit, that'd be sick.
that's my first one that I came up with. I was like, yeah, that would be amazing. No pun intended. Chuck, you're up.
I want them to go into some clone saga story
Oh
elements.
my god.
Well, I'm probably the only one on the planet that would suggest that. But I grew up with like Peter Parker, yeah, awesome. But when I actually started really reading Spider-Man back in the day, it was when Ben Reilly took over. It was just like post Clone Saga. You know, he was in the Scarlet Spider suit still, and then he eventually got his own like Ben Reilly suit. Sick suit, man. I want that suit in the game. So like, I want them to kind of maybe, I don't know how they can. Like, if you got Norman Osborn's floating there in a tank, who's obviously going to be, well, this is spoiler room, like Venom. Like that's the angle that they're doing, taking it from the Ultimate Comics where the Venom symbiote is generated by like Oscorp or whatever. It's not a meteorite from space, from the Secret Wars and shit. So why not just go, oi, we found like the scene where he got beat up by Dr. Octopus for the first time, and he's like lying there in a pool of his own blood. What's saying that they didn't take his blood sample off the ground and cloned him somehow, and go that route? I'd love that. That's what I want to see anyway. That's my number one.
You're wanting clones. That's a deep cut.
The Ben Reilly story is a good one.
I'll go
It's a
really,
deep
really,
cut, yeah.
really, really cheap with my first one and say no stealth bullshit.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
What was that one?
I just don't want you asked us to think of 3 things we either do or don't want. I absolutely want less stealth bullshit. I know we've already kind of touched on it, so it's a bit of a cop out, but I want to spend more time as Spider-Man. If we're only going to get 30 hours, I don't want 5 hours of that being taken up by stealth missions, playing as separate characters. And it kind of leads to my other point of I also don't want Miles to be a playable Spider-Man. I'm happy for like the next game for Peter to be teaching him, but I think there's enough left for Peter to develop his character in one more game, and then if it's say a trilogy, you pass the torch at the end of the trilogy. Miles is now a fully trained Spider-Man. He's taken over the mantle full time, and etc., etc. Like if there's a few side missions or stuff where where he's maybe controllable, but I do not want him to be a focal point of the story. I think the story should be largely centered around Harry and Norman next time out.
Ooh, yeah.
And I believe it will be, because Norman comes across as an absolute wet flannel in this game, and he's not. He's one of the he's one of the most sinister villains in Spider-Man. Even though his motives are looking quite pure at the moment. I do want to see him come as. I'm just laying all mine out here now. We're supposed to go backwards and forwards, but I do want to see Green Goblin, and I do think he will be Green Goblin in this, just based on the schematics we've seen of certain tools and toys knocking around Oscorp. If you go looking for them, his glider is there. The schematics for the glider's there, so I want to see that. But yeah, there's
bombs.
2 for you. I started with a cop out and gave you 2 instead.
Nice. Damn, back
John,
to you.
Back to you. No, back to you. Go back and
Okay.
forth.
Okay, thanks. All right, that's nice of you.
Just
So, oh, thanks. Well, one of them was going to be, I don't want stealth stuff in it, but touching back on the whole what's to be the symbiote suits and stuff, I want them to just go back through the tried and true retelling of that black suit Spider-Man story. They've obviously set it up, which will lead into like Carnage at some point. There's a Carnage and Venom movie coming out, so it just makes sense that they might, corporate synergy the hell out of the game and put Venom and Carnage in this next one whenever that comes out. So that's what I want. The whole Venom symbiote storyline is just such like a massively iconic part of Spider-Man, and we haven't really seen it done well, like big screen and in video games. So I think these guys can really do it justice, and that's what I really want. So if they can somehow 2 for 2 at the moment, merge the Clone Saga and the symbiote Spider-Man saga into one game somehow. I know I'm asking too much of this game, but goddamn, I know they can do it. That's my second one.
All right. So, at risk of losing my second one, I'm actually going to go one which is sort of going against what you guys are saying, but hear me out because it might also work. So I do want to play as both Peter and Miles in the second one. However, I sort of like the idea, rather than having the sneaking around missions like we had in this, is that you do play as Peter Parker for a majority of it, but I think one of the biggest things that happens in games, which is really annoying, like even when you play like the old God of Wars, you would start the new game and there'd be some story reason why you'd lose all of your abilities and you'd have to start from scratch and then start all over again.
Yeah,
that would be really, really annoying if we have to start off the next Spider-Man game and suddenly you don't have all your stuff to start with. So I like kind of the idea that in a way you start off with Miles because he doesn't have all that stuff, but he's only used in sneaky missions because part of Miles's Spider-Man is that he has the electric zap and that he can go invisible.
Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily have to have the swinging portion of it. So if you turn those sneaking stuff into Miles is Spider-Man climbing around on walls and stuff still, but has the invisibility part and there's electric zap, you can still break up the gameplay with him doing that stuff, and then you go back to Peter being Spider-Man swinging around the city. Maybe something happens to Peter and he has to give him he gives him the web slingers and stuff like that, and then Miles takes it up. Whatever, I don't know. I'm not a story teller like those guys, but I think there is a way to still break up the gameplay, have those sneaking missions, but make it more exciting by being Miles being a Spider-Man of some type with powers that you can still build up. Like, you're never going to build up Mary Jane's like reporting abilities. So why not build up Miles's abilities while you're doing that stealth stuff? And then maybe with there was that report about in the first Horizon game, they wanted 2 players to be able to play in that Horizon game, and there's rumors that that'll be in the second game. maybe there's a way to play 2-player in the next Spider-Man game. Who knows? But yeah, that was yeah. I feel like there is a way. I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but I hope they figure it out.
Well, with SSD technology, they probably could do like
Mm.
2 Spider-Men swinging around on
Mm.
one map. Crackdown was able to do it on the 360. You could do like 2, 3 or 4 players, I think. Interesting.
I mean, GTA did it on the PlayStation 3. So
Oh, they did too with GTA 5, eh?
yeah, switching between characters.
True. Yeah, right. Yeah, I could probably see that happening actually.
So
yeah, good one.
my last one. This is to go deep or go wide.
Ooh.
So you
That was
either
inviting.
Depends on the person, Dan.
so go deep. So if you go deep, like when we're swinging around the city and you land on one of the buildings, you can look into the windows, but most of them are either like just flat images or it's like one little block room where it shows a table and a fridge and a bench and that's about it. If you remember Assassin's Creed 3, when they introduced the ability like to go through windows and stuff and run through the houses and then come out the other side and continue your running. I think if they can start to detail the city even more than what they already did and have you be able to go into buildings or through vents and stuff and continue your swinging motion, that would be really cool.
Thousands of buildings in New York.
Right. So you either start getting really detailed in what you have, or you go wide, which is suddenly you introduce the boroughs of Manhattan. So you can go to Queens, you can go to Brooklyn or whatever the boroughs are around the side, the 5 boroughs. If you then expand that, I think it would just open the game up even more. You could have jokes about the fact that there aren't the tall buildings; there are just the small ones, and you got to hide around a Spider-Man. There's, but I think you either get more detailed into what they already have. I mean, they'll go more detailed a little bit anyway, but either really dig deep on that, or you go wide and start opening it up even more, because that's something that no other Spider-Man game has been able to do, is leave Manhattan. It's all been on that island. So
that's where the whole Marvel universe lives, in New York, Manhattan.
So that would be those would be my 3. So Chunt, you're up.
My last one. All right. We saw some buildings and landmarks. We saw Doctor Strange's Sanctorum, and we saw the Avengers building. I don't know if I saw the Baxter's building, which is where the Fantastic Four hang out.
No,
but it's not in it.
There's a reason. There's a reason for that. That's a Marvel Fox issue.
Oh, that makes sense. All right.
Well, same reason why there's no X-Men in the Capcom. Marvel vs. Capcom. Same reason.
Right. So, I think, they've got the option. I'm pretty sure that they can introduce some other characters. I would like to see. The Human Torch and Peter Parker, like, they're kind of best buds. They do stuff, and like maybe some races with the Human Torch would be rad. I used to love those in other games, or just maybe some other interactions from other Marvel characters, that like Spidey team ups. They used to call them. I'd love to see that kind of thing. Like, I know they'll probably lean into Miles or that kind of stuff, but I think if they want to go the Miles ankle, if Peter has some Spidey jaunts trips with some team ups of other dudes, and Miles can be a tag along to kind of learn the ropes, or just cameos and stuff. Like, I'd like to see them expanded a bit more. Like, Spider-Man knows so many characters, and if the Avengers building exists in this game, why not? Like, Wolverine, he's a mainstay, like, between the Spidey world or stuff. I don't know if they would go the Iron Man route, or maybe meet Tony Stark. I don't know. I just think they've left it open, right? They've got the options there, so why wouldn't they follow through in the next one? That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what I want to see, something like that. My idea of this next game is going to be so freaking huge that we've got the Clone Saga, we've got the Venom Symbiote Saga, and we've got Spider-Man and the Avengers, event books in this one game. It's going to be massive and huge, and I would probably do the same thing and wait 3 or 4 years to buy a PS5 for it, like I did this time. But yeah, look, that's why I went out of the next game.
I agree with that logic.
Thanks.
I think there's an easy way to incorporate that stuff too, which is like just do the grounded heroes in there. Like throw Daredevil or throw at least Matt Murdock as a lawyer.
Daredevil. I want Dan. Yes, I want Daredevil in this game.
You do that. There's already Harlem there. You can have Luke Cage.
Yes. Dan.
Your Jessica Jones. Josie's Bar is one of the landmarks that you go to. So is
The
Alien
Defenders.
Investigations. So keep
Oh,
it. Grab the grounded ones, and they can easily be incorporated because Spidey is meant to be like he's top level of these grounded heroes, and then he's the link between if you do go to Avengers type. So I reckon bring those guys in. Leave the Iron Mans and Captain Americas elsewhere.
That's a good call.
You literally stole my idea, Christopher Hunt.
Oh. Yes.
Like in so much of that, my whole thing again was flying around. Avengers Tower's there, but I can't go in it. Like if I want something else out of the next game, it is a little bit of crossover. I see the formations of something happening because there is a reason that Marvel have given marketing deal, etc., to the Avengers game for PlayStation. I see some kind of crossover happening there. I see something happening that intertwines with that universe. And if it's a case of, we get a character from that kind of rocks up in Spider-Man and only in Spider-Man, do you know what I mean? Like, because that game's going to be multi-platform, like there's going to be something that crosses and ties with Spider-Man. But Dan, your idea is probably the best of the collaborations for in keeping the villains grounded, using some of these that are Netflix TV specials that are grounded in reality. Your Jessica Joneses, your Daredevils, your Electras, Kingpins, or Kingpin.
Fuck off Iron Fist. No Iron Fist. Fuck off.
Bring Kingpin back. Kingpin's Revenge. Oh, I want it. And Daredevil, because Kingpin was originally a Daredevil villain.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan, we're on it. Sorry, Jamie.
No, but that's entirely plausible. Like Fisk's obviously in jail, but what's to say that he's not going to be in jail next time around? And Daredevil was brought in to help specifically with that stuff, and then you could have Jessica Jones helping you with something else specific, and Elektra helping with something else, like sort of in an Arkham fashion, where I think Arkham City and definitely in Night, where you got either like Robin or Nightwing or Catwoman were helping you with specific villains and specific things. They could weave a bit of that in with some grounded heroes for sure. Bring back Black Cat. She is outstanding. She's my favorite part of this whole game. And it's not only because she's definitely the most bangable cartoon that I've ever seen in my life. Like, she's there's history there. And again, I can't attest too much to the comic book side of this because I don't know much of her comic book arc, but the way she interacts with Peter and the history between the two of them can be explored way more than what it has been. I think they get maybe, and Dan, you probably agree with this, they get basically one episode to flesh out parts of her story of the DLC. They only get one of the three. And I think that she could be a key player in the next game. Like, bring her in, let her have a bit of conflict with Mary Jane, like maybe they meet each other, it gets a bit testy, and she's still got feelings for Spidey. Let's have a love triangle as well.
I like it.
Seems you both took the let's throw some other Marvel characters in here. I'm going to throw that one in. Let's have a love triangle.
I like it. I want this game.
Oh, I definitely want more, and if it's a launch title, it's a deal breaker. I'm not going to wait 3-4 years to play it. Like, probably be there day and date, to be honest. What do you reckon the premise of that is, Dan? Do you reckon it could be launch title or launch window?
It can't be launched. Well, if we think about it, they started it in 2015, like everything, like pre-production, everything, and they'll finish by 2018. It only took them 3 years, which I think is insane. that they were able to do that in that time. Considering you look, God of War and took 5 years, and Horizon took 6. They had to build their engines for those games, whereas I think Insomniac just used what they already had.
It's
But-
built in the Sunset engine, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Ratchet and Clank, they all use the same. So to know that you already have the swinging mechanic there, like the main, like your gameplay is done. It's kind of like when you play the sports games and you're like, well, they kind of figured out in FIFA how to kick the ball, like you, and in basketball, like their shots aren't going to change. And that's kind of what Spider-Man's at the moment, where the gameplay is solid. The gameplay is there. You can tweak it and that, but now it's, do you build the city? Like, how expansive do you go? And if we know they obviously worked on the DLC after the game released, so let's say they finished up those DLCs mid to early 2019. So even if you base that on 3 years, then we're looking at maybe 2022.
But I don't think a very big
launch.
team didn't build those DLCs. They're too short and sweet.
No.
There'd have been a kind of a service team that did that, while the rest of the studio probably started work on the immediately ordered second Spider-Man game as soon as it went gangbusters. They would have had
most of the developers working on the DLC while you had a pre-production team elsewhere working on the next game, and then by the time the DLCs are finished, they're right to just start working on Spider-Man 2 because all pre-production is up and running. So I think I'm predicting 2022. I don't think it can come out next year. Who knows what Corona's done in this whole thing, but I think 2022 is safe. I think if you get Horizon next year and Spider-Man the year after, and God of War the year, like just keep following these sequels, I think that's what they'll do.
But then what do you do for launch? Because Knack ain't gonna cut it.
Don't doubt Knack. Knack can do a lot of things. Knack can get a sequel. That's what Knack can do.
Oh my god!
There's only one reason that Knack got a sequel, and that's because Mark Cerny literally is the lead architect of the whole friggin' platform. That's the only reason Knack got a sequel.
Yeah.
I have ideas. I think a Bloodborne 2 could be at launch, to be honest. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's a proper other conversation.
We'll know when Sony actually start talking.
Yeah, it'll come.
And they say actual words. But no, give me more Spider-Man yesterday. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a great game. I'm looking forward to the sequel. Insomniac, I've been playing a few of their games recently. Jamie, you should play Resistance 3 on that PlayStation now if you still have it. Cause
you should play Sunset Overdrive.
I have.
Oh, you have? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I played about 5-6 hours of it.
Oh, I love that game.
And then I had to give the Xbox back to my brother because he wanted to watch NFL Game Pass or something. So
fair enough.
But yeah, they make good games. All right, we'll finish off the spoiler room, our first one, and hopefully there'll be one coming up somewhat shortly.
Hell
we'll keep doing these. Just got to find games that we can all play.
Yeah, we will.
Maybe if Gears ever works.
There it is.
Thanks, Chunt. Thanks, Jamie. And thank you for watching.
Bye.
Ciao.